Hey guys, Adam from Splendid Sports, back again for another 3 and 3. This is episode number 22, and I'm joined by Joe of, I got to say, one of my favorite channel names in all of YouTube, 4SoftCorners. How you doing, Joe?
Good. How are you, Adam?
Great. Thank you for coming on here with me. This is going to be a lot of fun. If this is someone's first 3 and 3 they're catching, pretty simple. We're going to do some hobby talk, but Joe is going to show 3 of his favorite cards in his collection and tell us why. And then we're going to look at 3 cards on his want list, and we'll discuss those, look at some pictures, and just see where it goes from there. So, Joe, I know you're, in this grand scheme of YouTube channels, you're more of a newer channel. Can you give me a little background on, when you got started doing this and your impression so far? Anything you want to really say? Because I watch your videos, but I don't think I know your full origin story or whatever you want to call it. So please feel free to share that.
All right. Well, first, thanks for having me, Adam. And so really, it mostly started. So I think this is 9 months. I think my first video was June 6th. So really, can kind of start back. I got back into the hobby after collecting as a kid. I was off for like 15 years, and I got back in 2013. And really, from there, I didn't really have like a collection, so to speak. The way I got into it was just by opening boxes, and I was more just accumulating cards than collecting anything. It wasn't even because I didn't sell anything till like 6 years later, so it wasn't even to really for the value of it. It was just the chase of it. So then I was almost out of it, and then got back into it when some of my friends got back in like 2018, 2019, when it really started to the hobby really started to boom there. And really what drove me eventually to my channel, and mainly, I mean, my channel's mostly based around vintage cards, and I wasn't in vintage till about 2019. And what started it was one of my neighbors knew I collected cards and sold some cards on eBay and stuff, and told me about a collection he had from some of his stuff from the 50s and 60s as a kid. So he let me see it, and then we worked out a deal. I sold some of this stuff for him. But really, when I first saw it, I mean, I always kind of ignored that whole segment of vintage. I appreciated it that like, oh, there's some great big rookie cards and stuff in there, but I never really, paid attention to it or really took the time to research it much. So when I had his collection in my hands, I basically for like 2 months just sat and went through it card by card. That's really how I started looking at conditions of cards. I sat down, I printed out the PSA, like 1 through 10 descriptions of a condition, and had looked at that, and okay, this one has a wrinkle, so it can't be higher than this, and this one has that. So I basically did that card by card, and I had Beckett and like looked through card by card, priced everything, and it really got me into vintage and into appreciating it more. And then at the same time that's where I really got into watching. I had watched YouTube as far as like I used to watch group breaks and stuff like that. But up until that point, I hadn't really watched many channels. But in researching it, I found Mike Moynihan, Baseball Collectors channel, which I think a lot of us as origin stories, that's how we kind of one of the main channels we saw first. But so it was really his channel that got me into appreciating vintage more, and helping with all that research and everything like that. And then ultimately, it was a couple months later till I first started buying vintage at all. But that will tie into my first card then. But then just after that, to get into YouTube, it still took another 2 years or so. But I have a lot to lend to first. Like I said, Mike there for me first watching videos and getting into some of the channels from the community, and then also through his channel with the Sports Card Hall of Fame is the first time I heard about Eric from those back pages. And I would say from Mike, I got the appreciation for vintage, and then from Eric, I got the that was kind of like the driving catalyst for the way I would collect, where he mainly collects graded cards and reaps the benefits of people who don't get 10s and buys up their 8s and 9s and stuff like that, where because ultimately he just wants to own the cards and own as many as possible. So I took it to the same thing for me with vintage. I collect mainly low grade, and it started out completely just all raw cards, and for the purpose was I just want to own the card and own as many of them as possible. So that was really what instilled in me like the way I collected and the passion for wanting to start a channel. But it took almost 2 years, and the main driving catalyst for that then was the national. So last January, February, knowing it was in Atlantic City, and was thinking to myself, man, I would love to go that, but just to be able to save up for it and everything like that. But I talked to my wife and explained me and a couple of my friends wanted to go to it, and she's like, yeah, that's awesome. So I was kind of surprised she was so willing for it. And I said, well, what's my budget for this going to be to buy cards? And she's like, you have to buy cards there too. I was like, that's kind of the whole point. But leading up to it, leading up to going to the national, by this time I had watched plenty of channels, but for years I kind of just wasn't really even commenting. I would just watch as much as possible, but I would just, I know Mike calls baseball collector calls them workers, and like I would just watch, but I would just feel like nobody wants to hear what I have to say or care about what I have to say. So that's kind of how it went for a while. And then knowing I was going to the national really set forth, all right, I knew when I go, I want to meet some of these people, and I can't just say I'm so-and-so, I watch your videos. They'll be like, oh, great. Like I wanted to actually start building those connections and commenting and stuff. So I did that first and did that for a few months. And then that's where I really, like I said, the main thing that motivated me to eventually starting the channel was because I wanted to go to the national. I wanted to go to the meetups and meet everybody.
Yeah, this year in Chicago will hopefully be my first national. I plan on going. I hope I can follow through with it and go. But honestly, for me, it's going to all be about meeting the people that I've connected with here on YouTube. I don't want to say I'll probably, I'll buy some cards, I'm sure, but the cards that are on my list, I don't really chase like ultra rare, scarce cards for the most part. The ones that are on my list are just, when I can afford them, basically, when I have the money saved. So, and I don't expect to get any deals at the national. So I don't know how much buying I'll do. It's just for me going to be more of just meeting people, hanging out and connecting with people that I've semi-connected with, never in person. But so this will be really cool. And yeah, that's the way I look at the national, at least. But who knows? Maybe when I get there, I'm sure I'll get the bug. I know I'll want to buy some stuff for sure once I'm in that atmosphere. So, yeah, but I got more questions, but let's get into the first card, and I think that will kind of lead me on a couple questions that I have for you in regards to what you collect and vintage and so forth. So, yeah, whenever you're ready on number one, go for it.
Okay, so the first card is like I said, after those. When I was doing all the research and stuff and got into and started appreciating vintage, it still was a little while till I bought any, just because I'm lucky I have like 4 or so LCSs very close to me, but a lot of them don't really have vintage. And we have at that point we have a local mall show, but it wasn't started yet. But anyway, so I had got a gift card for Christmas that year for my wife's family some of her family lives down by Philadelphia. So I ended up going down there, got a gift card for $100 gift card for a hobby shop down there. And so after I developed that appreciation for vintage, my favorite player of all time is Stan Musial. So that's where I really wanted to get started. I wanted to just build some of his runs. So I think I started with like the 58 tops, the 59 tops, and the 61 tops. So that was my start in first buying vintage. And then after that, those were probably, I never got the cards graded, but they would probably grade anywhere from 3 to 5s. And I mean, watching things, I thought, oh, you want to get as high as possible, but So this is the card that really started me in my, this is the 52 Bowman.
Hmm.
So it's definitely, I did for Rick Vintage Oddball Cards. I use this as my beater card, and a lot of people said it's not as beat up as, I mean, in person, there's definitely a lot of creasing and surface wear on the front, and then the back has some wear and a little bit of paper loss. But for me, this is what started. Like I said, I bought those first 3 Musial cards and they were in decent shape, but then they were also a little bit pricey. So I saw this. There used to be a guy on Twitter that had a hobby shop, I think in Minnesota, and he would just post pictures of his cases and say, if you want to make a deal on any of these. So I offered him, I think like $50 for this card, just really seeing it like in the corner of the screen. And when I first got it in, I thought, oh, that's a little bit worse condition than I thought it was going to be. But I really just, the more and more I looked at it and thought about it, I'm like, this card's almost 70 years old. To me, it's like an antique. Like it just, and just every little crease you see across it, that's where I really started I mean, it's all about the story for me. And like, it was probably on the top of a stack of cards or had a rubber band around it. And to me, that's where I really, this card is one of my favorite cards and is important to me because it really started me down that path of realizing that if I want to own more of the cards, I have to accept things like this, and just gaining that appreciation for the story behind the cards more so than anything being in perfect condition.
Yeah, I mean, Stan Musial gets a lot of airtime on these 3 and 3s, man. From whether it be the want list or I talk about him a lot. It's just a beloved legend, and he's got some great cards like that. Yeah, that's one of his best cards. I mean, from a visual perspective. And to your point, I've said this before too. That's what I love most about vintage cards as a category, is that when they were distributed and opened up originally, there was never a thought of, hey, these are going to be worth money someday, or I got to take care of this because the better condition it's in 70 years from now, it's going to be worth more or whatever. No one ever thought that. And that's the story of why they're valuable now. So I love that. It's, natural scarcity of high condition cards. And that's the way kids took care of the cards back then, for the most part. The ones that survived that are like, mint condition or whatever, PSA 7s and 8s and so forth. That's just like a miracle. The most of them are just, that's how they were taken care of. And that tells the story. So I love that. I love that card. And yeah, I'm ready for number 2 whenever you're ready.
I just want to say too, it's crazy to me because I definitely know between the cards people show off and the cards they say they want, Stan Musial does get a ton of airtime here. But it just seems as the hobby as a whole, it's still, for how much you see it on here, and I feel like we're a pretty good cross section of, the hobby as a whole. It still seems like he's just really undervalued and still underappreciated.
Yep.
Like, not even just in the hobby, but just as a player, it's crazy to me.
If he was a Yankee, it would be a different story, right? But he played for the Cardinals at the time. New York was the center of the baseball universe, so it's just, I think, a matter of just situation. And when if he came in 51 like Mantle did or something, it's just timing. That's all. But yeah, from a career, and he was just a great guy. All stories I've ever heard about him are that he was just a great guy. And obviously, you look at his numbers; it's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
So.
I think he was over from when he came in. I mean, I think he was overshadowed by DiMaggio and Williams just by being, and not that Williams was appreciated, or he was not a media darling by any means, but still, just, I mean, I think just he came in right after them, and I think he was just overshadowed by them.
Yep. Absolutely. All right, let's go number 2.
Okay, so if anybody watches my channels or watches my videos, they know I talk about the 1953 Top Set a lot. So once I developed that appreciation for vintage and got into vintage and kept picking up more cards, I hadn't picked any cards up from the 53 Top Set yet, but this was right after like the Topps Living set where they use that design from the 53 tops. And it really, anytime I saw it, I would always say that's my favorite design, but I hadn't had any cards from it yet. So I started out with, again, I think there was a sale on Twitter, like a stack sale. I bought the Dizzy Trout card from the set was my first card. It was like $3 or $4 in a stack sale. I said, yeah, I'll take that along with some other stuff. And then when I paid, I said, hey, do you have any other cards? And he said, oh, I'll give you these 4 or 5 Phillies cards because that's my favorite team. I think I ended up paying $20 for all of them. But anyway, so that's what started. Just I wanted a representation because that's kind of, once I started collecting vintage, I just kind of wanted representation from some of the different sets. It was my favorite set, the way it looked and everything like that. But I just thought it was never going to go any farther than that just because of all the big cards in it. But shortly after that, I found there was a site that did vintage set breaks, like as group breaks, where you could just buy spots and you get so many spots. And so it was a low grade 53 set break, and it was $15 a spot. So I took 3 spots, and then as like he did the video of the break after he randomized everything and set it up as like a spreadsheet. As you're going down, I don't even remember the 2 other cards. The first one was just a common. The second was a common in the high number series. And then as it was going on, I'm trying to think, I'm like, well, I know they're all high numbers here, but I don't remember what cards are left for sure. But then I ended up winning this.
Whoa. That baby. So, Willie Mays.
When I won it, try and get the glare off of here.
Oh, 53 Willie Mays SGC 1 looks great.
So when I got it, it was a raw card. Sorry, the glare. I ended up grading it later, which will be part of the story for my third one. But so this is one of my favorite cards. One, just because of the card. It's a short print in 53. It's a 3rd year Willie Mays. I definitely didn't think I'd ever be able to own this card. And it really was a driving force in me thinking, well, I'm just going to keep picking up 53 tops cards because, I mean, I still need some big ones, which we'll get to later. But after I got this, I just ended up picking up more cards from the set, and I've been working on that for well over a year. And so I'm down to 25 cards I need to complete the set. I need the Warren Spawn, which is a Hall of Famer yet, and then 2 big boys, and then it's all high numbers after that. But
why is I should know this, but why is that? Why is the Willie Mays a short print? Is there like a story behind it, or?
I think it had to do with so
244.
Yeah, I think it had to do with one, between just the contract disputes. I didn't know if they knew for sure which players would be in what, and then also so he was in the military, so I don't know if they knew he was going to be back or not. So I think that was the main thing, being that he was serving in the military at the time. I don't know if they knew he'd be back for the 53 season or not.
Okay.
So I think that's the main reason that he ends up as a high number.
Yeah, in the comments, guys, if you got any more info on that, because I've heard that recently. Yeah, 53 tops Willie Mays short print, but yeah, would love to know if there's anyone knows, like, you know, for sure why it is short printed versus, you know, because that's his third. That would be a third year card, right? 51. Yeah, 50.
Third year, yeah.
3rd year card. So yeah, I mean, by that time, they knew that Willie Mays was going to be something big, I would think, right? So yeah, that's interesting to know exactly why that was short printed. But yeah, that's an awesome card, man. Wow, nice hit you had on that. That break. Wow.
Yeah. So, yeah, like I said, definitely the 53 top set that's. Well, like I said, we'll get more into that later, but so I guess we'll move to the 3rd card.
Yeah, if you're ready. Yep.
Well, and I gave you fair warning ahead of time. This will be the 3rd and 4th card. So I have a little bit of a story, but so once I decided I was going to the National, and I had that talk with my wife, then I decided, well, I'm not going to, that was in like January or February. I thought, I'm not going to really pick up any cards, and I pretty much held to that. I think I bought a couple small ones, but I really, for whatever, 5-6 months, like really held off from buying anything. We have a local mall show, so I set up there and sold as many cards as possible. We had a yard sale at our house here, so I sold as much old clothes and everything as possible, and just really saved up, because just usually the way I buy is usually on a budget. And I don't want to go there and spend, thousands and thousands of dollars, but at the same time, I wanted to go and not really be handcuffed at all as far as seeing anything, and seeing, like, not being able to at least like look at a table and have to eliminate 99% of it because I can't even afford anything there. So that being said, I wanted to work on the 53 top set a lot, which I will say, you were saying about the National earlier. I will just say that if you're any kind of set builder, I wish I took advantage of it. I got a lot for the 53 top set, but I wish I would have picked up more, because I just don't find those at any LCS around here, or I don't find those just at my local mall show. So anything especially like that for older sets, like, yeah, you can buy a lot of stuff online, but to be able to hold it in person and see it and have that experience of doing that. Like, I flipped through a binder at one table where I could pull 4 or 5 cards out in varying conditions from the set, and it was just a great way to be able to get them. I wish I would have just took advantage of that a little bit more, but I still did good. But that was just a tip I wanted to do for anybody that's a set builder. But anyway, leading up to, I wanted to mainly do that, but then I also thought, this is my first National, this is my first big show like this, any kind of experience. So I had in my head, and I saved up so much that I thought, I want to make it very memorable and at least buy one big card, which I normally don't get to do. So in my head, I had the Stan Musial rookie, possibly from 48 Bowman, from 53 tops, either the Jackie Robinson or the Satchel Paige card, and then a Koufax rookie. So the first night, Wednesday night, the sneak preview night, and the first half of the next day, I spent mostly picking up cards for my set, and then I really focused in on trying to find one of those big cards. And at the time, I had never purchased any graded cards, so I thought, well, I want to find one raw. But basically the way it was it made sense to find something graded as opposed to raw, just because the prices were anything raw in decent condition was being asked for higher than anything that was already graded. So I searched around for a while, and it was actually hard to find this card. But so I ended up finding one of the cards that I wanted, and this is a Koufax rookie.
Yeah, baby. Nice.
It's only a PSA 1. There's a little bit of creasing, but I think it still presents very well.
Oh, yeah.
And I had almost given up hope, because I was walking around for a while, and like I said, anything in my price, there wasn't much I saw in my price range. Like, I'd go up to a table and ask, and they'd have 8 of them, but they were all starting at PSA 6s or higher.
Oh, yeah.
And then anything that wasn't graded, like I said, up until that point, pretty much all the cards I would buy, I would just put in a binder, just because I was loosely building most of these sets, and I just liked all the cards together in the binder. So kind of like the way Jake Legends Never Die collects. But like I said, it just made, I think a lot of people think I might be against grading, or thought maybe at times I was against grading. I'm definitely not. It just usually it presents that I can buy more cards raw than graded. And then, like I said, my ultimate goal is just to own as many of the cards as possible. So, but it just made sense to buy this graded. One, because it probably is a card that could be faked, and two, it was just cheaper. So I had almost given up hope, because right before I really hadn't seen anything in that price range I was looking for. And then right before that, I found one. I think it was an SGC 1, but it was almost completely ripped in half, and they were still asking $500. And I thought, I'm never gonna find one of these. And then 10 minutes later, I saw this and made an offer on it, and it was less than what I had budgeted for it. So it just came together nice.
That's a perfect example of another reason why I love vintage so much. Is there's so much nuance to it, especially when you get into graded, because man, the variation between PSA 1s is so it's all over the place. And that is such a nice PSA 1 that that's a lot of the fun in it, in my opinion, is hunting for cards that look better than the grade. And that's, for me, that's a perfect example. So that's, congrats, man. That is that is an awesome card.
Thank
I
you.
don't have a Koufax rookie, but that's definitely one that's on my long-term list for sure.
Yeah, I definitely wanted to prioritize that because, well, I couldn't afford a Mays rookie, but between him and Koufax and Mays, I just feel like that when one of or both of them leave us, I just think that, just like with Aaron and Bob Gibson and all those guys, the other in 2020, I believe that was, there's going to be a bump, I'm sure, and that it would possibly not be attainable for me anymore once that comes, when they eventually sadly pass. So that was my 3A, and I apologize because I guess I'm technically going to show another card, but it leads into the story of my 3B.
Yeah.
But before I bought that day, so I have this. Again, Stan Musial being my favorite player, I was walking around and I saw in a showcase there was from the, I think it was 2015, the Leaf sets that they were in blaster boxes where everyone had a sticker auto card of him in, and I think they basically had him just sign a bunch on his deathbed. Like, they were really bad. But I saw one of those on top, and there was a card underneath it. So I asked to see the card underneath it, and it was this card, which, if you see the price tag on that, it was $55, and that is from the 99 Upper Deck Century Epic Signatures from the Upper Deck Legends.
Love
and
those.
It's a gold variation. So as soon as I saw it, I thought, I think that's a really good price for that, but I wasn't sure. I thought maybe it's like, 2 to 3 times what I figured it around $50 is what the base card from the set would be. But the one number to 100, I had a good idea that it was going to be a lot more valuable than that, but I wasn't sure, but I wanted it anyway. So I immediately bought that. So then this leads into that night was the get together, the YouTube get together. And I was, as soon as I went to that, one of the first people I saw there at like the hotel bar was Bill, the Hall of Fame collector. And I had been commenting on his videos. And I wanted to introduce myself to him. And I also knew he would be one of the most knowledgeable people for sets like that. So that's really where it ties into meeting these people and making those connections, how it's so important. Because I first introduced myself to him and said, I like, he recognized my name from commenting on his videos. And but then I led right into with a question. I showed him the card I had in my pocket, and I said, right before, almost right as the show was closing that day, I was walking around and I saw one of those sitting at somebody's table with a price on it, the same one numbered out of 100 for $900. And I thought that was probably a little high, but at the same time, I'm like, oh, maybe this was a really good buy. So when I showed him, he couldn't believe that I got it for that price for $50. And I think he thought originally I bought the $900 one, but then realized. So that's what it immediately kicked in my mind. I love this auto. I love Stan Musial, but I just wanted a base auto of him. I didn't want anything that was huge. So the first thing I did the next morning of the show was, I thought, I'm going to try and flip this card if I can. So I walked around for a little bit, and probably within the first half hour, I found the guy that actually had one on his table for $900. And I said, would you like another one of these? And he said, well, what are you looking for? I said, I'll take $500 for it. And he looked at it for a minute, and I immediately made a 10x purchase in less than 24 hours.
Wow.
So after I had that, it kind of, because at that point my budget was pretty much dwindling pretty fast. But that was the last day we were going to be there. So I thought, I'll just look around for some other stuff. But once that kind of like reinvigorated me, and I had a whole other list of options. I was looking at some different things, but then ultimately I decided I should try. I came in with a list of like 4 cards for the big cards I wanted to get. I got the Koufax. So then I ended up finding, not much long after I got that money, I ended up finding this card. So this is the 3B.
Nice. All
Because
right.
I went in looking for one big card, and for the same price, basically, because of finding that mutual card, I ended up with 2 of the big cards.
53 tops, Jackie Robinson and SGC1. Nice.
So this there's some paper loss right here, and up in the other corner, it looked like it was taped crosswise on those corners, but luckily it wasn't across the border, the black border at all. So I think you almost can't even, it almost blends in with the white. So yeah, it was a very good show for my pickups for the 53 set. And like I said, I think it was just very fitting how big of an experience the National was, just to save up the money and be able to go and find some of these cards. And then ultimately the people I was able to meet, friendships I've picked, the friends I made since then, and just it was just the 2 cards together and everything. Just I had to show them together just because I think I really completed the story and just made pretty much summed up how great the first National I'm ever at was.
Absolutely. Love that. Look at that. Wow. Well, that's a perfect segue into the 3 you sent me on your want list. Actually, the first one, this is cool because this is a pretty recent pickup for me, and I have not shown it, have not talked about it. But this was number 1 on your want list, so I figured this is a perfect time for me to show the card that I recently picked up. And pull this up here.
I'm jealous already. But
53 Mantle. This is a PSA 2.
that's awesome. Congrats.
Tops, Mickey Mantle. Man, a card that I slept on for a long time as, a Mickey Mantle collector. I don't think I've ever fully really appreciated this card until getting on YouTube, because you get focused on other cards, and I always loved the 53 Bowman. So I always told myself, like, oh, that will be the one I'll get from 53 on Mantle. But then, like, seeing people's videos, and there's been a few channels that I watched that have recently picked up 53 Mantles, and as they talk about it, and this is kind of embarrassing, but probably, I don't know, maybe not till I got on YouTube again. I never realized that this was a close-up image from the 51 Bowman. I have no idea why I never knew that, but 51 Bowman Mantle's one of my favorite cards ever, and it never really hit home that this is the same, I guess, image, but just zoomed in essentially from the 53 tops. So yeah, I figured that would be a good time for me to show that one. But yeah, great pickup I recently got there, and that was number 1. I'll let you talk about that card, but that was number 1 on your want list that you sent me.
Yeah, it took me a while to realize that too. I didn't initially realize that, and as soon as you did, like you said, it's like a slap in the face. Like, how did I not see that before? But that's awesome. Congrats on that, man. I said I was jealous, but I immediately was going to say I'm also very happy for you, because that's great. That's amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, that was a big one to get.
But yeah, that's the number 1 eventual. That's probably, unless I get lucky again or find something at a really great deal for some, that's probably going to be the last card. Like I said, I'm down to I didn't want to just show all my wants to be just but I still need the Satchel Page yet too, but I need those 2, and then, like I said, the Warren Spawn, which is not going to be a hard Hall of Famer to get, but and then after that it's like 22 high number cards, and that's it. It's a long ways off, yeah, probably, but it's still a lot closer than I ever thought I'd get. And that's definitely, as a whole, that's my number 1 in my collection as a whole, was that the 53 tops set and the progress I made so far. So it'll probably be a year or 2 of maybe completely saving up again and not buying much, but it'll be worth it in the end.
And I got to say, it is a card that the more you look at it, the more you love it. Like, just, looking at the Yankees logo, and it's just such a beautiful card that, like, I'm like, man, I kind of slept on this as far as appreciating it. But yeah, I really love having this one. So let me pull up Card Ladder, because I want to show an image of number 2. Let me see this here. So what we have here, number 2 on your list, This is a 1953 Bowman color Stan Musial, and this is one that PSA 5 that sold pretty recently, $348 from Heritage Auctions. So this is a great card. This is a great card. Tell me why you. I know you're trying to make the Musial run. So, but why do you love this card so much?
Yeah, this is one I was either deciding between this or the 48 Bowman. Those are, well, I also need like the Leaf and the 49 Bowman, but those are the two big ones I want for sure yet. But I wanted to, this and my third one I thought were more reasonable cards that I'll be able to pick up and without taking too much away from what I can pick up for the 53 set. But this is one I should own by now. Like I said, Stan Musial being my favorite. I don't know why I don't own it yet. I just anytime I see it that it's like easy to buy, which I know there's eBay, it doesn't get much easier to buy that, but anytime I've seen one in person, there'd be like a crease right across right across the middle. Like his face is in the perfect spot where any rubber band wear pretty much went right across the middle of his face. So most things, like I said, I collect very low grade and I'm fine with almost everything. The creases across the face are the one thing I somewhat am not, that turned me off a little bit. But yeah, this is just one that like I said, as a Musial collector, I should own this card already. And it's just one of the glaring holes in my Musial collection. I think I definitely have. So that's why I have it on here.
Yeah, it's just a great set, but also just a great photo of Stan the Man there smiling. Classic card, but yeah, pretty affordable too. Like you said, I mean, if you try to pick up one raw, you could get. I would assume probably get one for, I don't know what, maybe $150, something like that, $200 maybe. You get a.
Yeah, it's definitely affordable. Like probably even less than that. I mean, I would say in either low grade condition or graded a 1. I mean, probably less than 150. Like I said, it's a card I definitely should own by now. Just for they're not that but I guess I've always prioritized other things because I always think, oh, it'll be there, but I probably should get it before it takes any kind of jump at all.
All right, let me pull up the last one here on your want list. Number 3, 1955 Topps, Hank Aaron. Love it. Let me see what we got here. This one, put up a nice SGC4 that recently sold, PWCC. This, there we go. This is a nice image. So yeah, what a card. What do you have to say about this baby?
So yeah, this card for me, like I said, I never thought I'd be able to own a third year Maze card, but that's definitely the farthest back I'll be able to go with that probably. And eventually I'm gonna have to get the Mantle, so third year Mantle card. But I know I'm probably never going to be able to pick up a Hank Aaron rookie, but I mean, I figured second year, and it's a pretty nice card or a very nice card. So yeah. I would definitely be happy with this as a, I don't necessarily, I'm not purposely trying to pick up all a card of every Hall of Famer, but I like having a representation of everybody. And I have, so I didn't mention earlier, like when I went from just initially trying to build Stan Musial runs, the Stan Musial run, my first after that I started building the 1960 Topps set, and that's the only set I've completed so far. So between that, I mean, having the whole set, you have a pretty big representation of everybody from that period, and then with all the cards I have from the 53 set, and then a lot I've picked up in between, I have a pretty good representation of people. But I don't have that many Hank Aaron. I have the 60 Hank Aaron, and I think I have the 59 All-Star. But I just think this would ultimately be the big Hank Aaron card in my collection, not being able to afford the rookie. So
yeah, I mean, this might be a bit of a hot take. No offense to anyone. Look, the Hank Aaron rookie card is an incredible card. It's an all-time card. But you know what? If I'm looking at this card, I gotta say, I think I like, just from a looks perspective, I think I like this card better than even his rookie card from a looks perspective. This thing is just, I love it, man. I love everything about this card. This might be, as I look more at it, this might be like my favorite Hank Aaron card. Now that I'm like, I don't know, man. Just maybe that copy is just really striking me, but I love this card. I think
I definitely agree with you. And I mean, it's the same headshot, but between the two sets in general, I just like the layout better of 55 to 54.
Yeah, I
And
think
just
that's what it is. Yeah.
the colors just pop more to me too. So
Yep.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah, man. Great choices. Awesome. Well, let me ask you. You've been mentioned when I do this part here, where I ask whoever I have on to mention another channel or two. You have come up a lot of times. So you haven't been on YouTube too long, but you've made a lot of friends and made a lot of connections. People love you and your channel. So um, if you got a channel or two that you want to throw out, give a mention to, I would love to hear it, and I'll see if they want to do a 3-3 down the road sometime.
Yeah. Well, first I just want to say, yeah, I mean, I went into the national. I mean, I wanted to build those friendships and relationships and stuff like that. Which maybe at first was secondary to the cards, but it became primary then. And that's been the greatest part of all this is I say to a lot of people, I don't even really watch TV anymore. I basically just watch as much YouTube videos as possible. And
Oh,
it's really almost like a job to
yeah.
try and keep up with
Yeah.
it and comment
Yeah.
it. Cause whenever I comment, I like to actually, before last episode, I would have 100%. The first person I would have mentioned was Shane, because I think we're very similar. I think I met him right before I started, but I think I started commenting on his videos right before I started my channel. But I just think we're very similar in that. There's some people I haven't. I know they've watched my channel, and I tried to watch theirs right away, and I do eventually. But sometimes it takes me a little bit, just because I have to almost find the time to be able to do all of it. But like we both said to each other before, like we don't want to watch stuff just to watch it and have on like in the background. Really, like I want to pay attention, and I want to be able to leave a comment back and forth. So I feel like I said, Shane would have been my number one to say, just because I feel like he's one of the greatest friendships I've made so far in this community, and that back and forth, I think, of just watching and commenting, we're just very similar in. But yeah, so it's because that's become like I said, it's just these relationships have been so great to make, and like it's only been 9 months, but I just the friends and stuff I've made, I would have never thought it would have came to this. But I think he was mentioned, and I think Shane might have mentioned him, but one of the great ones I would another friend I made, and a great one I'd like to see, is Sammy from SFI Sports Cards.
Mm-hmm.
I think he might have just been mentioned, or maybe mentioned more than once, but I think he would be great.
Yep.
And another one is Scott, and he goes by Stukes Cards and Curiosities.
Okay.
He has the two of them together, just their knowledge of players and then of the cards. I think you would hear some great stories and see some great cards from both of them. So those would be the two I would bring up.
Thank you. It is funny what you just mentioned. I'm smiling because we all only have a certain amount of time in a given day to, listen to podcasts or watch YouTube videos. And it's funny. I was thinking about this the other day, like podcasts that I used to listen to years back, like, the Bill Simmons podcast or Joe Rogan podcast, like stuff like that. Now I find myself, you have a choice, right? Like, oh, I'm on this car ride for 30 minutes. What am I going to listen to? Whereas I'm like making a trade of like, I'm saying, all right, I could listen to this Bill Simmons. It's a new episode there where he's, talking about whatever, basketball, or I could watch like, Shane Shoebox Legends video or your video, or Dylan's video. And I'm finding myself making the choice to watch sports card YouTube videos. I don't know. There's something about it. Like I enjoy them more than the stuff I used to watch or listen to, which probably get millions of views and downloads, but I'd rather watch a video that maybe gets 100 or 200, 300 views. So it's just funny how that your viewing habits over time change based on what you get into. So I'm the same way. Like I find I want to watch videos that I'm interested in, and I like to support the channels that support me because generally I'm interested in those anyway. But yeah, you're faced with choices on what am I going to spend my whatever hour on this day or half hour. Some people only might have 20 minutes, 10 minutes a day. So it's tough because you can't watch and listen to everything. So yeah, keep up the great videos, Joe. I mean, I love your channel, guys. If you don't subscribe to 4SoftCorners, I should ask you that real quick. Did that just pop up like, hey, 4SoftCorners, or was that like, is that a like a play on 4SharpCorners? I'm guessing, right?
Yeah, yeah. So it as I was thinking about it, like as I like I said, it was months or probably at least months that or longer that I wanted to start making videos. I just Shane mentioned in his video, like we're both naturally just kind of introverts, so that's kind of the way I am, and it just took me a while to, I mean, even why I didn't comment at first, but then even to put myself out there on video, and it just took me a while to get to that point. Like I said, the national and wanting to meet people then, and want them, you know, to put a face with a name and everything. That's what eventually led me to making it. But for probably months, maybe a year before, like I had in my head what I wanted to do. Once I started collecting vintage the way I did, I wanted to show people that you could buy cards, you know, raw or that were in beat up shape or had condition issues and they still had great eye appeal. So it was maybe a couple months before I made my first video. It just popped in my head one day. I was trying to think of a channel name because before that, I had a different channel. My channel name was Old Painless, which is a reference from the Predator movie. I don't. Used to that used to be my channel name, and I'm like, well, this has nothing to do with cards, and nobody's gonna relate it to cards in any way. So when I was thinking, I'm like, well, first thing I have to do is I have to change my name, and it just, I don't know. I was just thinking of it the one day, and I thought of 4SoftCorners, and I thought to base my channel around like low grade vintage cards, I think it would just be perfect. It just popped in my head, and I had it months before I made my first video, but I don't know. I had the idea there. It's just, it took to finally getting to do it, but yeah, it just popped in my head.
Beautiful name. I'm down with the 4SoftCorners, man. That's what I look for now in vintage. I want, this is like a perfect example, right? Good centering, good image, beat up corners, you know, and that's why it has the two. But I love it. You know, for me, that I don't know. Sharp corners on vintage, it doesn't move the needle for me. I know everyone's different. Some people, that's what they like. But yeah, man, I'm with you on this. And you can save some money with those soft corners. So I'm all about it.
Yeah, it took like the first, I don't know, maybe 5 or 10 episodes I made too. I had to, I might have had to stop the recording one time because I think I said 4SoftCorners. I'm like, I don't want to get sued at all or anything. So,
yeah, right.
But like it took a little bit just till that got in my head to, because I mean, that's what people hear most of the time or say most of the time. So it took me a little while just to make sure I said it the right way. But yeah, for two, that card is, corners, I think, are the biggest thing that can be, have some issue with and still lend a great eye appeal on the card. I mean, if it's crease free or doesn't have, you know, any surface issues, you're zero in. I mean, the picture and color and everything is usually in the middle of the card. So you don't even, most times, I was trying, even some things like beforehand, I was trying to make sure the lighting was right. And my Jackie Robinson there's a big crease right down the middle of it besides the paper loss, but I couldn't even, it took me, I couldn't even get it to show in the light. Like it was that. So unless you put it right up to your face at arm's length, all these cards just look really great to me. And that's why, I mean, I think I'm slowly starting to get Matt from the Card Story. I'll pronounce it that way for Tyrus. But he, like, I think I'm slowly getting him off getting him to know that cards can, you know, still look great in lower grades or, and then, like I said, ultimately, it's just you're reaping the benefits because you have more money for more cards then.
And by the way, I've bought a lot of cards from 4SoftCorners, so big customer there. So I like their website, but I love the channel name 4SoftCorners, man. Joe, thanks again for doing this. Thanks for coming on. Are you plan on going to this year's national? You might have said that. I can't remember.
No, I did not say. Definitely not this year. I don't think. Like I said, it took a lot of saving up and planning and stuff to get to that. And just I mean, Atlantic City was like a 3-hour drive from me. So I know most people didn't really care for the, you know, just the atmosphere of Atlantic City. But I mean, for me, it's the best. So I don't know if it's going to come back there, but we'll see. Maybe next year will be in Cleveland. So I would probably still be able to drive there reasonably. I think it's about 5 or 6 hours. So we'll see till maybe, hopefully something can be in the works for that, but definitely not this year. But I that's one of my biggest things every year. I love watching the national videos, and I'll definitely be there in spirit by watching everybody's videos.
Well, I hope to meet you in person somewhere down the road. Until then, we'll keep in touch. I'll keep watching your videos, and I appreciate all the support that you've given my channel, and always leaving great comments. So I can't thank you enough on that, guys. If you like these collector videos, show the support. Share the video, subscribe to 4SoftCorners, hit the like button, and we'll keep pumping them out. And I love doing these because I get to meet new people and talk to somebody like Joe that I've never talked to before. And man, I had a lot of fun. So guys, thanks for watching this. And thanks, Joe. Any last words?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for having me. I love watching these, and I love the knowledge and just the channels you learn from watching these. And like I said, if we want to, we can do my outro to take this out.
Let's do it, man. You want to start? You want me to start?
I'll start.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone, for watching. And just remember, any card can be a great looking card,
even if it has 4 soft corners.
Thank
See
you.
you guys.